is Michelle Price here, coming to you from TechStreet Houston, and I have our social media director with us tonight. Damien, introduce yourself.
Hi, Damian Franco, social media coordinator for American Textile Recycling Services, and doing some work with Michelle on TechStreet Houston, and super excited about helping to bring this amazing conference to the Houston area.
You know, one of the things that has always been an interesting, I would say probably something newly interesting in the past few years, especially since I've gone around and spoke at different conferences, is, you know, it started off in the social media world. We were all kind of like, okay, so what's the hashtag for the conference? And that has bled over into general conferences and general events, and it's kind of cool to see that people are recognizing the value of being able to have a single stream in which they can interact with one another, and that's kind of why we're coming to you here tonight. Damien and I wanted to share with you some behind the scenes of how we came up with what we were going to use the hashtag for TechStreet Houston this year. Damien, what did you, when we were brainstorming this, I remember we were doing things like, okay, so are we going to call it TechStreet Houston? No, that's too long. Are we going to call it TechStreet ST? Well, we could, but what if people, since it's an international, you know, we're going after an international crowd, what if they don't recognize ST as street? And do we do it TechStreet? I mean, we had all kind of questions rolling around in our head.
Yeah, we really did, because there are so many things to consider. The first thing is you want to create something that's fairly original and not being used by anybody else, or at least into such a capacity that you wouldn't be able to sort of use it for its own purpose. Obviously, trying to make it as short as possible would be very beneficial, but that's not always possible. It's not always an option. So we have a conference called TechStreet Houston, basically has 3 names in it, and our Twitter handle is TechStreet Houston with the street abbreviated to ST, and so there was the idea that we could do that as a hashtag, but if you don't capitalize sort of the beginning of each word, it sort of jumbles it together, and that tends to be a little bit cumbersome when you're doing a hashtag, whereas if you do, you know, just TechStreet, with which is what we originally or eventually ended up with, it looks better when we capitalize the T and the S, but it still works if you don't. It's still readable. There were so many things. TechStreet Conference was just too long. TechStreet Con, TechCon, so many different ways that we had thought about it.
Yeah, and it's really important for it to be easily recognizable and something that's going to be very aligned to your brand. And I think sometimes some things that I have seen, there are times when initials work and there's time when initials don't work. For example, Social Media Club, people have gotten to the point where they recognize SMC as Social Media Club, and so then what happens is, whether you're a club, you know, over in Germany, or you're one here in Houston, or you're one down in Brazil, everyone can just do SMC and then the name of their location, and people instantly recognize it, no matter where they're at. But then there's times when initials, people are just like, huh? What's that?
Yeah, acronyms just sometimes don't always work. Just using the initials doesn't always work, especially when you can just take a few minutes to do the research. So if we looked at the initials for TechStreet Houston and TSH, there are a lot of different groups using hashtag TSH for a number of different things.
Now, I know when we were discussing this, you did a little bit of research and you pulled some stuff and you started looking at it. Is it anything we want to look at today, or is it something you can kind of verbally explain what you uncovered in that research process?
We can do a little bit of both. So if you do the search on Google Plus, it actually shows up one of the more dominant ones, and that's TSH happens to do something with thyroid. It's a measurement for the um, the T3 cells or something. I am not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I didn't play one on TV, although I always wanted to.
You'd be a cute one too.
Thanks. But it has something to do with thyroid and T levels and thyroid testing and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of people who are using that for medical purposes. That one's pretty evident here on Google Plus. Plus, as you can see, there's hashtag TSH along with hashtag thyroid. Um, if we do, let's do the Facebook one next because that's actually sort of my favorite. It gets a little bit weird. Not bad weird, but when you use your initials, you have to be wary that there are going to be a lot of other people using their initials also. So as you can see right here, we have a Facebook page and probably a business called Train So Hard. And so they use hashtag TSH. There's some other things in languages that I'm not as familiar with as I used to be. I've completely forgotten how to read Sanskrit, so there's that. Too much coffee probably. Again, here we come up with the hyperthyroid stuff. And if you go onto Twitter, it gets even more sort of convoluted, right? Sometimes I don't even know. Somebody's using hashtag TSH for tan so hard because it sometimes is hard to tan, and for some people, I think. And if it was hard for me to tan, I might want to use the hashtag tan so hard whenever I have gotten another shade darker.
I don't know
Per
about
se.
you, but I turn brown really easy.
So yeah, apparently TSH is tan so hard. But when also you talk about even inside of our industry, um, if we start thinking about TechStreet as being inside the industry of technology, one of the TWiT network television, or I don't think he calls them video podcasts. I think he calls them netcasts. Leo Laporte's programming, TWiT TV, has a show called The Social Hour, and they use hashtag TSH. And that's an extremely popular show, and so during their live shows, you will see that hashtag pop up quite frequently. And so you just get a lot of randomness. Oh, here's the other one, the sample hour. I don't know what the sample hour is because I didn't click on it, but their little icon has a censored bar across it. That's probably not something that you'd want your company or your name associated with. Maybe. Again, I didn't click on it. And then there's
It's
team
not a
share.
real clear, it doesn't give you a clear channel for your brand and your topic to be associated with. There's multiple people who've tried to line up to it, and now you're just another duck in the row, which means you probably won't get the kind of attention you want.
Right, but it's not just about attention, though. I mean, the attention, as marketers, obviously the attention part is important for us leading up to the event. But the hashtag actually becomes most important during the event. And that's not necessarily for attention. That is more about the conversation that happens in and around the event. What's going on at the workshops? What kind of companies did you see? Who's pitching? Who did a really awesome who really did an awesome pitch? What startup did you not even know existed here in Houston? And all of those things can be centered around the hashtag TechStreet. And it stands alone. When we did the original research to see if TechStreet was being used by anything, the most recent occurrence that we had found had been a couple of random ones in 2012, and then at some point somebody was using it in 2011 for something, and it looked like a sort of one-off event. So we were totally in the clear to use that and be able to build that engaging conversation that communities really use hashtags for. It's what they were made for, is in wrapping a conversation around, or using the hashtag to wrap a conversation around it and put it in a nice little bow.
Well, and the other thing that I thought was really cool is this is a nice little intro of information that we'll be teaching, in the social media workshop to help people understand, because we're doing a really nice amalgam of, we've got a nice 3-hour block that's divided up between beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and we're playing with a few things to make it really cool and almost kind of like a combination of education and live stand-up. I think they're going to enjoy it. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's going to be fantastic.
So what we wanted to do is we just wanted to come here with you for a few minutes, explain to you kind of the behind the scenes of what went into creating the hashtag for TechStreet, give you a few questions that you can ask for yourself in case you ever want to create a hashtag, whether it's for your brand, whether it's for your conference or your event, and to put a little bug in your ear that says, ooh, man, I need to make sure I go to TechStreet Houston so I can go attend that workshop that Damien, Daniel, and Michelle are doing on social media marketing.
Yeah, everybody join us at TechStreet. The social media conference is going to be great, whether you're a startup, whether you're a founder, coders, developers, anybody who's a creative professional, or whether you're a new student looking for a job. You've got to learn how to brand yourself. And really, it can be used by anybody to just make yourself more marketable.
And we're also, one of the things that I think is important to remind people is TechStreet Houston is not just about startups either. There's going to be enterprise business there. There's going to be a lot of really great workshops there for you. We have a fantastic STEAM program. We've added the arts into STEM. And we're also going to have some really great exhibitors there so you can learn about different technologies that are available to use now. Some of those cool things that are happening in the 3D arena and the makers arena. I'm really kind of excited to see that we're going to be bringing all of that under one roof and giving everybody an opportunity to learn with and from each other, and to be having that conversation of, hey, what if we did this together and we solved that?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the exciting things about what TechStreet is doing is this idea of helping to push Houston into being a smarter city and pulling all of the brilliant minds around us together to do that.
So you can go check it out, register at www.techstreethouston.com. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Damian Franco.
And we will see you at TechStreet.